Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of NC-17. My name is Josh, and today we have a very well-versed actor in a lot of movies. We got Jason Brooks. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm all right, I'm all right. All right. So before we get started into all the movies and just the different franchises you're involved with, kind of take us back a little bit to when you were a child and was movies what you wanted to do, or was it just something that kind of came along at a unexpected moment?
Oh, definitely. When I was probably 6 or 7 years old is the first time I saw Star Wars. We were over at a family friend's house. They were doing some sort of party. All the kids went down to the basement and it was playing. And that's the first time I actually saw a movie. Everything else had just been TV at the time. And as soon as I walked in that room, the Millennium Falcon was going into hyperspace, and I was hooked. So I needed to find out what that movie was. I need to find out everything about it. And from that point on, I started creating like little costumes, paper towel roll guns and all that kind of stuff. And from that point, just creating costumes, doing little makeup things, I just kind of got all into the creative side of film and TV. And just that was my passion. I always wanted to do that growing up. But of course, growing up in a small town in Washington, you never think that's an option. So it's I feel very blessed that as I got older, I was able to find my way into it.
Uh, so kind of making your way into the industry through the special effects and makeup side of things. When it came time for you to kind of like step into a different role, because just by the what you guys like shown in the background, I'm gonna touch on it, but it was going into like producing and acting. Did you find that was an easy transition, or was it was there bumps in the road?
I think it was fairly easy. I never tried. I definitely was all about the creative side of it. So I was doing a lot of graphic design and whatnot. And where that's where I met this independent filmmaker named Tyler Redinas, who was doing some small films. And he hired me to do a couple of posters and some artwork for his website and everything. And then from that point, just kind of went into helping him on stuff. And I just had some creative ideas and problem solving, and just was always trying to find ways to make films or projects more creative. And what can we do to make this look better, more real, more fun? And it just kind of evolved. And pretty soon I was being asked back to help with certain films, all the way to the point of directing. And so it just kind of something I fell into, and not really having a specific goal of I'm going into film to do this. I never thought I'm going to go do makeup and effects. I thought it'd be fun to wear a costume, be Darth Vader, act or something, but also it's fun to do special effects. I just needed to be in that world.
Yeah. And you say as a child, like once you saw the Millennium Falcon and Star Wars and stuff, it really piqued your interest. But you run the gamut of like entertainment because you're comedy, action, drama, horror. Is there a specific genre that it's kind of like you're drawn to more, or do you just love it all?
I do. I love it all. I think the horror aspect of it, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of creativity in there with you could do horror, you could do comedy in that, you can do suspense in that, drama. It kind of has all the different pieces to play with. And so when you do see one of my films, you're often going to see a lot of the romance and comedy and drama and horror and gore and everything all wrapped into one. So I think that's kind of where I'm drawn to, is because I like all the different facets of that creative.
Uh,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Uh, so I really want to talk about the Friday the 13th Vengeance, but I want to dig into some other stuff first. Kind of save the best for last, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm a big horror fan, so I mean, just like anything horror, but I also branch out and watch anything else that is not a cartoon. I just don't watch cartoons. But your first couple things, like you said, were shorts. Was there a specific short you have worked on in the early years of your career to where it was like that stands out, or is it just like you take away something from all of them?
Um, yeah, every movie project, everything I've worked on, I always take away something, whether it's a new thing I've learned from somebody or learned myself or something I've learned not to do. But one that kind of sticks out in my mind is one of Todd's films called Attack of the Hand-Faced People. And it was kind of a spoof or parody, loving homage to Night of the Living Dead. And where instead of zombies, you've got these hand-faced people who walk around, trying to attack you like this. It was the most ridiculous thing. I'd taken a bit of time off of filmmaking for some life things that came up. And Todd gave me a call. He's like, hey, I really like what you bring to the table. Would you want to come work on a film again? I was like, I don't know, we'll see. And he's like, it's a called Attack of the Hand-Faced People. He sent me the script. I'm like, this is either absolutely ludicrously stupid or genius. And he's like, well, just meet me at the cemetery. And we did, got together, filmed it. At the time, I'm like, I don't, what are we making? This is so silly. And we got done, and it's funny. It's brilliant. It got a lot of won some awards, got a lot of attention just because of it had the right heart, it had the right vibe, and it was just fun. Um, it brought a lot of nostalgia back in many ways for people. So I think that kind of reinvigorated myself to kind of get back out and be creative again, and kind of launched me forward to get back into filmmaking.
All right. All right. So you've worked with a lot of different people, and your creative juice is flowing with like certain people, or just everyone in general. Do you find that on the independent scene you have a lot more freedom to kind of do what you want?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the only thing that really holds us back is money. There's not a lot of money in the independent world, and so you have to be a little bit more creative at times and work around financial obstacles. Otherwise, it's really fun to be able to make what you want, tell the story you want without limitations of a producer or a company telling you, like, no, you're taking it too far, or hey, I don't like the humor in this, dial it back, that sort of thing. You get to be the boss and make what you want. And working with some of the actors from Friday the 13th, as we touched on a little bit, even on set, they were like, this is amazing. I love this experience. This is so fun because we don't have producers and we don't have these people coming down from the studio saying, no, you can't do that or dial that back. No, you can't have this makeup because it's too gory. They're like, they love the creative freedom and the freedom to be able to expand on their own characters outside of what the studio wants. So it's definitely a lot more fun from my experience and from what I hear from others as well.
Oh, yeah. All right, so let's talk about Friday the 13th Vengeance.
Okay.
So you played Jason Voorhees. Uh, First and foremost, my take of seeing you play Jason Voorhees. Now, there's so many different people who played him. You got Kane Hodder, C.J. Graham, who you worked with, and stuff like that, and they all portrayed him in a manner that was more along the lines of straightforward. You know, and your Jason Voorhees, yeah, although straightforward, also seemed a little bit more kind of like on the emotional side, especially at the ending of part two. I don't want to spoil nothing, but so I think you kind of brought a different dynamic to the character, and your outfit was fucking awesome.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
But playing Jason Voorhees and now being attached to this franchise, and it's a very big franchise. What was your first reaction when you found out you were going to play him?
I was extremely excited. I had auditioned for it. I had sent messages to the director at the time, Jeremy Brown, and wanted to part, but he was out of state. He just kind of like blew me off a little bit, saying, "Hey, no, thank you, but we're going to go local people here. We got 80 something people who want to be Jason, so I think we're going to be good." So I didn't take no for an answer. I went ahead and recorded a self tape, dressed up in a Jason costume I had, sent that to him. And then within a few days, he called and said, okay, you're the first person that has the right height, the right build, the right motions without direction, and you nailed it. So he and his producers were on the call. They gave me the role right then, and I was ecstatic, and there was no way that I was not going to put 150% into wearing the mask. It's an honor, and I absolutely cherish the experience. So I gave it my all, and um, it was huge. I mean, it was huge for me. So
Oh yeah. So I want to say like your first introduction as Jason to the fans. Like when people saw you, because you do the convention scenes and stuff like that, right?
mhm.
All right. So when people, saw you and they're talking to you and you're like, well, I played Jason, or they know that you played Jason. What's that reaction to like? What's your reaction to them like saying, damn, you did good, or something like that?
I am extremely flattered and caught off guard by the attention it got. Um, I mean, you touched on a little bit about my version of Jason. A lot of that I owe to Steve Dash, who was Jason in part two, the with the sack. I was at his house down in Florida. We were working on the first Vengeance. He played the sheriff, and he called me over to his couch and said, "Can I talk to you?" Like, sure. And he's like, I know that you spent countless hours researching every one of us, trying to figure out how we move, what we do, um, getting into the character, getting into the headspace of that. He says, "Can I give you one piece of advice?" And I was like, absolutely. He said, just be yourself. Richard Brooker, he didn't look to me to be Jason. CJ Graham didn't look to Ted White, to him, it's Kane. Do you think he looked to CJ to be? No, the thing that makes each one of those Jasons special is that they're their own Jason, and that's why everyone has their favorite. And so from that point on, I definitely absorbed that and just let it go. And so then it's the moment that mask goes on and they're calling action, I just try to let everything go. Remember, run that line, just be your own Jason that Steve Dash said through my head. And what I've heard and what I see myself come out is just kind of this amalgamation of all the different Jasons from like some of CJ's movements, some of Kane's movements, some of the Ted White, Richard Brooker movements, and Steve, it kind of blended. And so when I hear that a lot from the people as I meet them, I'm hearing a lot like, "You're my favorite Jason. I love this and I love this about it." It's a huge honor to even be considered and spoken about in the same sentence with some of the other actors who play Jason. And just blows my mind still. And um, yeah, I still don't get it, honestly, but it's, it's a very, I guess, flattering, humbling thing to hear that and to have fans, have people come up to you with tattoos of your version of Jason on their body. Hundreds of people have gotten tattoos of my mask, my costume, my version of Jason, and it's crazy. I'm just like, don't you know who I'm not or who I wish I was, or but I somehow touched their lives or inspired them in some way, which I really, as an artist and as a performer, I guess I just really appreciate that.
Oh yeah. Uh, so you're right. There are many different people who have played Jason, and you can tell their movements were all completely different. But there was one scene in part two that nailed it for me to where I can say you were probably my second favorite Jason, and that's God's honest truth.
Oh
First
wow,
being Kane Hodder, because Kane's Kane.
Kane.
But and this ain't no disrespect to anybody else who's played Jason, but the moment at the end when you showed the emotion, I was like, all right, Jason's this vicious killer who's going through everybody, just especially that Kevin scene. I'm like, wow. But toward the end, when the emotion came out, and I was like, I never seen emotion from any Jason. I seen kill, or well, except for in Jason Takes Manhattan, but that wasn't really. Well, you get what I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by like the emotion part of the character that you played reinvented my vision of Jason Voorhees. And for that I thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was. that was definitely a choice in when I wrote it and acted it out. I definitely wanted my version of Jason. I mean, he's connected to his mother, always has been,
Yes.
protective. And then, of course, now we brought in Elias Voorhees, his father, played by CJ Graham. And that dynamic hasn't been shown in the franchise before. So, how is Jason going to react to that? And what's their history and all that? So, I think if there's anyone who could get that emotion from Jason, it would be the parents, right? Um, I think that in my mind, we've already established he doesn't kill children. He's got a soft spot for that because of his history and growing up and being bullied and everything. So I thought that would be his kryptonite, right? His weakness. And again, not to spoil anything for those who haven't seen it, but what happens at the end and why he gets emotional, I felt like that would be one of the only reasons he would. And what would that look like? So that's what I tried to put out there.
Oh yeah. What I did like though, hands down, is when the hockey mask came off and the sack came back on. I was like, okay, some shit's about to go down. And just the way the movie played out. I mean, because part two, way more graphic and violent than part one, which I loved, especially
Right.
the like the
The
jam.
roadblock?
Oh my god! I mean, all right. So I was watching it. And I was like, all right, so something's gonna happen, and some people are gonna get. No, you came in there and was ripping people to shreds, and I was like, that's badass.
Thank you.
But so in doing some of those some of the kills, like what were some of your favorites that you got to do? Mine was when you ripped old girl's back off.
Yeah.
I was like, good God, I ain't never seen that. I've seen them fold people, but
Yeah. No, that was one of my favorites for sure. I think just because I hadn't seen that before and it takes it, Jason's very much like kill, move on. He doesn't make a display out of it. He doesn't like sit there and torture people with it. But I think having that girl fight back the way she did and just drawing it out in that way, it felt very satisfying in the end to rip that spine out the way that happened. And um, I think another one is oh man, I that whole cabin scene is my favorite. I always look forward to that moment coming up because it gets me every time.
oh yeah. Uh, so each character that Jason came across through both the first and the second one, each either had a different way, a different reaction. But those stoners in the cabin had to have been probably the most priceless reaction I've ever seen. Especially the one girl just sitting on the couch. She's like, "Huh?" I was like, and then what you did to her, I was like, "Wow."
Yeah, that was a fun one. You like people who watch that, they tell me afterwards too. I was expecting to cut away. I didn't expect to just see that happen. Um, so that's another one of my favorites too. But the whole cabin scene, I love that because he just goes in there and goes ham and yeah,
Oh yeah. I mean, you stab Amber Brooke and her pops out.
yeah.
I was like, that's crazy.
The implant comes out. Yeah, Amber,
Oh
love
yeah.
her.
Oh yeah. But those aren't your only two times you played Jason.
No,
You were in Rose. I think it's Rose Blood.
Rose blood. Yep.
Yep. So in every single one of them, you've touched and rubbed elbows with people from the franchise.
Yeah.
Every single person, especially CJ Graham. So I mean, it was kind of like Jason, and then old boy from part two. Again, it's Jason and Jason. What was your reactions when you found out you were going to have scenes with them?
Um, it was very surreal. Before we got on set, it was just crazy. And on the first Vengeance, CJ came out when he flew out. It was actually my birthday. He showed up. He was going to be filming the next day, but he came a day early to come and say hi, celebrate my birthday with me, and that was crazy. Um, I'd already gone down to his house, met with him. We filmed a couple things, took some photos for the poster and whatnot. But I just, by that point, as soon as we got on set, um, and he showed up for that first day, I was wearing the Jason costume. I was doing the kill by the campfire with the pickaxe in the girl's head when I got her by the throat, throw her down, and he watched that kill. And I had a moment of, oh boy, I've got part six Jason, my favorite in the franchise is part six. I've got him watching me play the character that he, made me fall in love with the franchise with. And it's like, oh, no pressure, right? So, anyway, I just kind of let it all go, got into the character, did it, and by the time we were done with that scene, a while later, he'd already gone back inside, and he'd seen, he'd been out there for quite a while, but that was that was intense. And then from that point on, I think it's just been there's only like two more moments that really stand out. One is the Roseblood with Laura Park Lincoln, who's played Tina in part seven. I was in my costume standing across the table from her, and we're making eye contact, and she's about to unleash her power, and I'm sitting there waiting for the director to call action, and I'm like, oh my God, I am Laura Park Lincoln's Jason. I am Tina's Jason. This follow-up sequel to part seven, it just kind of caught me off guard for a moment. And then the other one was when we had uh, CJ put on his part six costume again in part two. And we had Tom Matthews reprise his role as Tommy Jarvis. And they showed face to face. And I'm sitting there behind the camera with our DP Cody and everything. We're just looking at CJ Graham as Jason, Tommy Jarvis in his original costume, or Tom Matthews as his original costume as Tommy. It was just this moment and the lighting and everything just brought me back to this weird nostalgic spot that it's hard to describe. It was just, you knew you were watching something special in
Oh
that
yeah.
moment.
So now your name is in infamy with this franchise in many ways more than what even I expected because I was like, okay, he's a Jason, and this is what he's going to do, and for however many there's going to be, but your variation of Jason stands out in many ways because again, we're going to go with the emotion first, but then you had some of the most graphic kill scenes out of the entire franchise.
Yeah.
And you got to kill well, I don't want to ruin it, but you got to kill some some well-known people.
Yeah. Several
Uh,
of them.
oh yeah. So in knowing that maybe you're killing somebody from the original franchise, I'm not going to name no names. She was hanging there, but uh, what was that like knowing that the job didn't get done with this Jason, but your Jason took the job and did it? What was that feeling?
That was very interesting. It was first we had to undo the first one and
Yes.
and make that make sense. And I think it was fun. The person you're talking about, they definitely wanted to have a fight and make that last and really kind of go out with a bang because the fight had been, I think it was the longest victim fight in the franchise. Um, for people who did not survive, it was not the final girl kind of a thing. So it's like, well, we got to keep that record up. And so we did. And it was just a lot of fun. But then again, to be like, well, I just really put the nail in the coffin on that one. So that's that now. It's it's very weird to have that kind of power, if that makes sense, to say, okay, we're gonna write it, therefore it is. And yeah. And the same with the other people from other franchises. We worked with, people from Hellraiser, Paul Taylor, who played Pinhead in Hellraiser Judgment, was in the film, and same thing. Tamara Glenn, Halloween 5, Richie Ramone from the Ramones, is Rob Mello, Happy Death Day. There's just all these amazing people that I get to work with and be friends with and stuff. And I don't think I thought too much about, oh, I'm going to be killing them, but it's yeah, there's great people.
Well, I mean, in your favor, everyone you mentioned in your movie, they got 187. So,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know, uh, I want to tell you like my favorite scene, like what I thought was the most
Yes.
brutal thing that happened in there, and it wasn't even a kill scene. You
Okay.
were holding the older sister, the younger
Uh,
sister's like, "Don't do this," and you just, I was like, I thought for sure the first time watching it, I was like, "Damn, oh, okay, I guess the young girl's gonna be but that to me, like you had that moment, like your Jason had that moment of like, fuck it. I was like, that's so fucking brutal.
yeah. And just the with the crying and the having her tell her sister, I love you, knowing that that something's gonna happen to her, and just trying to get that out to make sure her sister knows she loves her before she can't tell her anymore. There's that gets me every time. I love that scene a lot.
Oh yeah, and that stands out. Like my wife doesn't. I don't know if you've seen any of my interviews. My wife does not like horror movies at all. But I told her I was like, you got to come see this, and it was just the ending, you know. And I
Mhm.
was like, you gotta come see this. There's blood, but there's not a lot of this and a lot of that. So she come down and she got because she's got a sister, so she's like, okay, I see that, and she's the older sister out of the two. She's like, I do the same stuff. I was like, yeah, but lucky you'd probably actually get 187, but whatever. But she enjoyed that scene because of the bond of the sisters, but she's seen some other Jasons, and we've met CJ Graham, Kane Hodder, a couple other ones, and she's like, your Jason seemed more in tune of being just violent, so that's a good thing.
Nice. Well, thank you for me.
Oh, I will. All right, so let's go to another one that I've seen, not Jason related.
Okay.
I actually saw this one recently called Diced.
Yeah.
That was a surprise hit. You know.
And just wait, we have the Reloaded, the second version of it. It's not a sequel. We extended it. We went down to Hollywood, filmed some more scenes, and made it longer. And it's going through post again, getting re-edited, recolor graded, new sound. There's new kills from Joe Castro that have been added in there too. So it's going to be even better. So
All
coming
right.
soon.
So going from like being in your first couple movies of just drama and action, and you were in some horror too, but going to Jason now, after playing Jason, do you see everything as a villain, like all the other characters that you play as villains, like differently, or is it you go into it with the mindset of I'm going to make this mine?
Definitely the latter. So when I do go into another character, I'm very consciously, I'm like, okay, don't get into the habit of putting a mask on and being Jason. And also, like in the case of Diced, having a silent character wearing scarecrow, clown scarecrow kind of makeup. Don't make it David Howard Thornton's Terrifier, Art the Clown. Don't do that. But although he's got a lot of similar attributes, how can you make it your own and try to avoid the bumpers on the side and find your own way to find something to make it unique and finding who that character is. I definitely like when villains have vulnerability, they have a backstory, they don't see themselves as villains necessarily, um, and to kind of draw from that as well. And that's kind of my process, I guess, is what makes me tick? Why am I doing this? Do I feel justified in doing this? Am I even aware of what I'm doing? So I I try to go fresh, and then when I'm on set too, make sure I don't have that muscle memory of playing Jason 6 times and then doing the same movement. So
Oh yeah. So there's two I haven't seen that I
okay,
actually do plan on seeing: Conjuring the Cult and Revenge of the Boogeyman. Kind of, if you can, give a brief synopsis on both of those, but without spoiling anything.
sure.
and how your character, I mean, I'm pretty sure I know how the character plays into it, but how your character plays into those.
So in Conjuring the Cult, that's a 7th Street production, written and directed by Calvin McCarthy, who was also in the first Vengeance. Um, and it's a story about a man who lost his daughter to suicide. And he's starting to see her come back. He's dealing and trying to cope with that and ends up finding uh, 4 witches that could possibly help him communicate with her and bring her back. And then, as we know, with like Pet Cemetery, and things don't always go right when you delve into these kind of things. My role in that one is very small. I did with my partner Naomi, did special effects, makeup, and that sort of thing in that film. I play a cult member, so I'm like the big guy in the robes and the monster when you see me there. My partner Naomi had a much bigger role as one of the witches. But but yeah, we did all the effects. It's definitely a fun one of those A24 style slow movies is how I kind of look at it, where it has that long slow burn. But when you get to that end, then the payoff it's awesome. Um, and then with Revenge of the Boogeyman, that one is it's a follow-up to Seventh Street's original Boogeyman movie, which was an anthology, but this kind of takes some of the characters from that and makes a full feature. It's just a quick, fun, um, people having fun making movies. It's very self-aware, a lot of humor, a lot of over-the-top kind of antics, knowing like what does a low-budget horror movie, what are those tropes? They're all in there, and it's just fun. And The Boogeyman was fun. Different than the other killers I've played, of course. Again, my partner Naomi, co-owner of Real Fiction Studios and everything, acting in that one again. But lots of fun, creative, bloody kills, um, humor, and just craziness.
Oh yeah. You got. uh, I'm not a big fan of like Disney, but I saw the title of this one and I was like, "Yep, I'm definitely gonna have to watch that because But you play Huntsman Gunner in The Death of Snow White.
The Death of Snow White, yeah.
Kind of give us a little bit of that and just like how your character is involved.
Yeah, so with The Death of Snow White, it's a dark fantasy horror movie that that I directed, and I also play the huntsman gunner in that. But it follows Snow White to more closely to the Grimm brothers' original fairy tale. Before Disney, before any of that stuff, the Grimm brothers wrote their version, very short. We took that and expanded on that to make it a feature film, delving deeper into the evil queen, who she is, what she does, why she does it, going into the relationship between the prince and Snow White, going into the dark forest and having, some of that in there. It's definitely a fun, dark ride. Going to be very bloody, very gory. The reviews, we've got a couple of Rotten Tomato critics reviewing it so far that love it. It's not for the faint of heart, but it is very fun. And again, it's one of my movies, so it'll have that humor and the romance and the some of the comedy, but the darkness and the horror and gore, for sure. Uh, and Huntsman Gunner, he's just a conflicted huntsman who works for the evil queen. I
All
guess is
right.
the most I could summarize with that character.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing that one, and when I do see it, I'll review it too. Uh, so before we get into Mythos, let's go with the Lizzie Borden game. You play
Yeah.
Kyle. Kind of again synopsis and just how your character plays in.
Sure. So another 7th Street production. This one I got to be in. I was one of the leads in that, and we all go. Me, my girlfriend or wife, and some friends take a relative out who's just recently lost her parents to a cabin to kind of get away from things for Thanksgiving. And in that time, they start playing the Lizzie Borden game, which is kind of like the Bloody Mary type of deal, and they accidentally conjure up Lizzie Borden, who goes around and starts making everybody regret their life choices.
Yeah. All right. So I really want to save Mythos for last. So Let's go with one more. 259.
Yes.
Yeah.
259, Cody Newton. He is the DP for The Death of Snow White. He was a DP for Vengeance 2 Bloodlines. Amazing filmmaker, writer, director. And he wrote, this is more of a teen horror style movie, like Stranger Things or kind of a Goonies teen adventure horror movie. And it started based off of a true story of things that happened to one of the crew members. And then it kind of expanded from there. I play the demon, the main demon in this movie. And we, of course, did the special effects and makeup for this one as well. But yeah, there's a demon that's kind of taken hold of a person and it's jumping body to body as they go through this, community. And these teens are trying to figure out what's happening and stop it.
Uh, that sounds interesting too. I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna check out all these movies. So
Oh, I hope so.
all right, so let's dig into your next journey as Jason Voorhees. Let's talk Mythos, a Friday the 13th fan film.
Yes. Mythos, that's where it all started. That's the one I auditioned for originally to play Jason. That was the one that was filming out in Idaho. And originally it was meant to be a short, 20 to 40 minutes, I believe. And we got into filming it. We were running, they're running a Kickstarter at the time or an Indiegogo or something, and did not quite manage to get what they needed to finish the film. And in the meantime, the people that we did collect along the way who were excited about it, they wanted more violence. They wanted more film. They wanted a feature. And so Jeremy Brown, the director, and I, we kind of sat down and talked and like, well, what do we do? Do we just try to finish this as it is, with kind of the mythos of Jason, which kind of centered around, the mythology of Jason, why he comes back, and it's based around the idea of Jason. And the more people that believe in the idea of Jason, the more it gives him power to come back. And when the town's forgetting, he's not coming back. So it's that. Um, but we decided, yeah, let's expand the movie. How? Well, let's go into with Jason's father, Elias. And we decided, like, if we do that, we have to get a really strong actor or person or somebody to fill that role. And that's where we decided, let's talk to CJ Graham. And we did. He agreed. And we went back to the original title of Mythos, which was Vengeance, and just kind of dumped everything and all of our resources and time and energy into that and went full out and move forward with the new project.
Oh yeah. So a couple more questions. We're kind of coming to the end of the show here. But if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I have this really cool idea to make this fan film, Freddy versus Jason," would you do that?
I think I'm moving beyond the fan films right now. I've done quite a bit of those, and having it be my full-time job for the last couple of years, I need to make money to pay the
Yeah.
bills. And so in fan films, we don't get to. You spend a lot of money and you put a lot of money into it and time, and which are, two things I don't have enough of anymore. So I think I would absolutely love if there was an opportunity to make a Freddy versus Jason um, film, that if it was possible for us to do it and be paid for it and do it all properly and everything, that would be amazing. I am working with a group right now on the Horrorverse, where I'm going to reprise my role as Jason for them in their thing, where we do have Freddy and Michael and a few other uh, horror characters, which I don't think I can say yet. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but but we are going to be working on one of that with some local filmmakers out here, Aaron Carlson and team. Um, so in a way, yes, we are working on something like that. But as far as me making a Freddy versus Jason movie or another fan film, um, it would have to be a very, very different setup and experience, I think, to get back into that
Oh,
world.
oh yeah. All right. So we've come to the part of the show where I kind of give you the floor, not kind of, but I give you the floor and you plug where they can see your movies, where they can, like get in contact with you or not. That's entirely up to you. Just anything you want to plug, and yeah, floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the easiest thing to do is go to realfictionstudios.com or find us on YouTube, Real Fiction Studios. That's where you can see the Friday the 13th films. You can see the trailers for Death of Snow White. On the Real Fiction Studios page, we have a lot of the special effects work we do, but you can also find links to going to our projects. You can contact us through there, find our different social medias through that site. But Real Fiction Studios, REAL Fiction Studios. Um, and that's where you should be able to get everything.
All right. Uh, so I'm probably going to ask Naomi to come on to the show since she's done some stuff, and it would be awesome to have her on. So she can pass along the word.
Oh, for sure.
But what advice, and this is probably the most important question I always ask everybody. What advice would you give to anyone who's trying to get into the industry, whether it be, soundsman, crewman, actor, director, just anything in general?
I'd say be prepared to do the work, be prepared to start from the bottom, and don't get discouraged. Things happen and things change. So, I spent a lot of time doing free work. I've done a lot of free projects, helping out with different people. A lot of what happens and what I've seen is networking. And if you can do a good job, be positive on set. Nobody likes working with a jerk. Don't know if I can swear on here,
Oh, you
but
can.
okay, nobody likes working with an asshole. So be a good person, be helpful, and network. Make friends, and then they will want to bring you on to other things. And then you find what you want to do. If you already know what you want to do, that's great. You're probably a step ahead, and just do it and do the best you can. But I'd say get on Facebook, get on places, find your local film communities, places and groups of people who are making movies, who want extra help. Be a PA, a production assistant, getting coffee, running cables, doing whatever, helping set things up, unloading gear. Get involved and then, put your time in. And also, if you can, if you have the means, go to film school. A lot of great resources from there too. Definitely pro education on that. And but it's still that's again doing the work. So
All
don't give
right.
up.
Hey, that's the best advice you can give is don't give up. I want to thank you, Jason, for coming on.
Of
I
course.
just I just noticed that you played. Never mind.
Yeah.
So it just connected. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, but yeah, I wanna thank you for coming on. I tell everybody once you've been on NC-17, you have a home here with us. Anytime you want to come on, whether
Thank
it be to
you.
plug something, just talk, or even to say, Josh, you got a booger, so you're more than happy to do all that. You're more than welcome to do all that. I said happy. I'm exhausted.
Um, Thank you. Just
But
make sure everyone needs to go out to the movie theaters when Death of Snow White comes out and go to the website deathsnowwhite.com, sign up there for showtimes and information on if it'll be in your area. But we definitely need everyone's support to go see it so we can continue getting into more theaters and have, independent film kind of show what we can do to the world. So
yeah. All right, one more question.
you got it.
I am a big fan of film. I love
Mhm.
Hollywood, but to me, and you can give me what do you think about it? I think that independent film has become the A+ player. Hollywood's become the B+ player, especially since after COVID, because it seems like all they want to do is jam Marvel down your throat or something like that. But in your opinion, what do you think? Do you think independence definitely took in the forefront?
I think there's been a lot more independent films coming out that are having success because people are tired of seeing the same thing. And I understand, big Hollywood studios, they're putting a lot of money on a project, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of really hard work um, for a shit ton of money, and they want it to pay off. They want to make that money back. So they're going to go with what's safe, making another Marvel movie, making another sequel, doing a remake of something that people already like because you have a built-in audience. The independent teams, they have a harder job. It's way more uphill because we don't have the money to market like they do. And however, we're finding that people like those better. And the reason why those get out there are because of fans and people like you doing the podcast and getting the word out there. It's extremely important because we that's what we have. Our entire Death of Snow White budget for the entire film and our promotion, our marketing, everything is so small in comparison to like what Disney spent on theirs. The cost of their stand-ups they put in theaters is more than what we had to work with for the entire film. So obviously it's just a major imbalance in who can see us versus who can see them, how many times they get in front of people. But as far as quality, everything like that, a lot of people are used to the Disney movies and the Marvel movies and that polish and that CGI look and that overly processed, beautiful imagery. And so when people see an independent film, a lot of times you can see in comments, it's like, ah, the production value doesn't look like it was 42 million because it's not, but the story might be better. The kills are better. The content is better because it has heart and because we don't have studios saying, nope, stick to the formula. So that's my experience. I do see a shift with people trying to support independent film more and appreciating it more because it is unique, it is different, and it's not the same thing again where people feel like their childhood is being ruined because people are taking things that mean something to somebody and changing it slightly for a profit.
All right. That was eloquently put.
Thank you.
uh,
Stream
again,
of consciousness.
uh, I want to thank you for being on, and everyone definitely check out Real Fiction.
Real Fiction Studios. Yeah,
Yeah, Real Fiction Studios. Make sure you support independent film, support actors and directors, and just people in general that are out there trying to put out what we love as fans. Yeah. So, Jason, Mr. Voorhees, I'm going to call you that. uh, thank you for coming on. And I appreciate you, man, and keep putting out the good work because I guarantee you got at least one fan in me.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on and taking the time.
All right, no problem. All right, everybody, till next time, stay NC-17.